you to please take a seat so we can start our first of 3 sessions of the series of campus conversations. Hello. Okay, so thank you everyone for making it today for our first of 3 sessions of this campus conversation series where we discuss the 3 projects for the Campus 2026 vision. The first today in discussion is the NextGen student living and learning spaces, the extension for our current dorms. We have with us today Dr. Khaled Tarabia, university architect and associate professor of architecture, Dean Jorgen, Dean of Students, Rashad, graduate student resident here at AUC. So for today we'll be, and I'm Sharif, I'll be moderating the discussion for you today and the next 2 discussions of the series. So for today, we're going to start off with a short video, and then we're going to hear some introductions from Dr. Khaled, followed by Dean Jorgen. Before we move into a more or less interactive discussion, we have prepared for you some Mentimeter, I believe, not Slido, Mentimeter questions. So please do have your phones ready to scan the QR code and interact with us through the screen. And we'll be commenting across as the answers come in for some of the questions that we'll be asking through Mentimeter, and opening up the floor for further comments and discussions. So, what I'm trying to say is that we hope that this will be an interactive hour that we have together to hear from you. The idea of these conversations is really to hear everyone's input, to consider it, and to understand it, and to open to discussion what these projects can bring about to our campus, and how the different planning committees can move forward and continue to engage the campus community around that. With this, maybe we can take a look at a short video that was prepared where we get to hear some ideas from our student residents about their hopes and aspirations for the NextGen student living and learning spaces.
I only found out about it recently, but I think it's a really great idea because we've been having a lot of issues with the registration over the past couple of years. So I think this is going to help a lot of people out, honestly.
We need more capacity for the dorms. Also, we need a smoking area here.
I think what would be really nice if there's an expansion is to get like food dispensers for the cats inside, because a lot of them are hungry. That's all I can think of.
I think we need more a market here in the dorms that is available for 24 hours because Saudi, the only available market here, closes at 11.
Inside the dorms, I'd like to see a catering option.
Maybe 3 meals a day will be enough for that. It will help many students.
I think it would be helpful for a dishwasher to be added, maybe.
Air fryers, which would make our life a bit easier.
I believe that there should be a smoking area in the dorms because all the smoking areas are way too far, and people who smoke are not going to stop smoking because they're far.
I want to have like TVs in rooms, and also more cooking facilities in the room, not in the shared lounges. That's for me what was missing in the dorms for the past couple of years.
I think vending machines and Pepsi dispensers أو ثلاجات, because we go all the way to Saudi to get the drinks. I guess, bigger lounge rooms.
Cleaner couches, for sure.
Cleaner couches.
My hopes for expansion is that maybe you should add some elevators, because we really struggle when we travel back to our homes and then we come back and we have to carry our suitcases like 2 staircases.
That's what we heard from our students, and maybe with that we can move to Dr. Khalid's brief on the project.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first conversations on the future projects. Great 3 years that we have up against the Campus 2026. I'd like to acknowledge the presence here of everyone, all of us, all of our community, President Dalal, Provost Abdurrahman, deans, professors, colleagues, staff, students. Starting with this session, I'm just gonna give a quick overview on the project. As you know, and you probably have heard some of it, that we have a great transformative agenda that out of it for the first phase is building 3 key projects for the university. We have actually published this on the Campus 2026. And if we can scroll down a bit, I hope my laser pointing works here. Okay, all the way down to the timeline. This is the portal where you can go for information moving forward for the next few years till the project is complete. Please make sure to check all the up-to-date information that it's will be listed here, starting with the timeline, and you will see on the timeline here our stages, different stages, starting from where we are, as of transitioning now from just community consultations into more of the actually implementation. We're actually in our 2023, our planning and design year, heading to 2024, which is would be the groundbreaking and implementation of construction. And I have 2 years of construction that we're going to be, all of us, part of it, and we will witness that. And then we're heading to planning for 2026 substantial completion of our project with the goal of official opening at the beginning of 2027. If we scroll down, give a quick overview, a bit more down, please. Yes, thank you. So that's our existing campus here, and of course all of us know and understand the north part or the undeveloped part of the campus. We've been actually in lots of discussions that led by the president in previous sessions and the community in explaining the issues that we overcame with some logistics with our land and planning for our projects. We are planning 3 key projects here. The first are the next generation student living and learning spaces, the topic of today's campus conversation, and then the technology research and innovation lab, and our future extended education hub. 3 key projects, each will have its own dedicated session. With this, I wanted to know for the dorms, we actually have had a number of focus groups, and the focus group sessions exactly address what actually in the movie. And they actually, I think we have a quick on this, has been led by CLT, addressing the issues that we actually have heard, but in a more detailed way along a number of themes, one of which what's there, what is there that we need to have, and what's not working, what works. Today's discussion is actually on your vision, what your aspirations are. In the focus groups that we have actually done as of October, we've done 3 focus groups, one with students, the other one with resident advisors, and the third with the actually management and the administration of the student housing. Out of it, we had key issues that will drive the design along with the discussion that we will have today. So with this, today is not for us to talk, it's more for you actually to exchange with us your vision, your points that we either need to be bring into the play or not. But Marco, I believe we have the presentation on the, I'll go quickly just on the focus group to show you what the key themes that we actually have went through, and that's actually current, that's just as of last month. So next. So we had a focus group, and that's the distribution of it. We're working on disseminating this out and making sure and putting it in a form where everyone can get the information on it. But basically, we divided ourselves into groups, and that's led by our great team of CLT who facilitated this work. Next. We had a theme on community, what actually needed with respect to recreational areas, common cooking areas, less isolation. All of what you see here is not our work. It's actually the results of the focus group sessions that were actually took place last month. Next. We have had discussions on what is the nature of space, what's missing in the space, what's actually in the current dorms that we have, and how are we bridging that into the student housing moving forward. Issues like, for example, our self-cooking, what do we know, storage, for example, that is actually an important issue that surfaced, guest access and ventilation and climate control, all of which we listed at the results. Next. Amenities and services, what actually the type of appliances, we went down to the type of appliances that we need, and well-being and mental health, the need for a space that group us as a family more than just as a place where you self-isolate. Next. Accessibility is a hot topic for all our members of our community, not just for the ability to wayfind and see the space or the safety of it, but also at the accessible use of it, the technology that we have, even the type of tiles, floor tiles that we should use. Next. These are just collective suggestions and conclusions out of our focus groups. And pretty much without going and drilling down in the details of it, students and the dorms and the community that live in the dorms, they need some additional amenities that should be provided. There are things that we have now good experience with, having lived into the dorms that we have, that we can actually mitigate or kind of renovate for it to work better. The culture exchange programs, work and meeting space for the RAs, spaces basically that work for us and that we can meet and be just meet new people and get to kind of break barriers. So that's kind of in a conclusion what we've done so far between the planning, design, and focus groups, and we look forward for your exchange of your discussions with you today.
Thank you, Dr. Khalid, for that. And maybe there's a lot of pointers that would be beneficial in the next portions of our discussions in terms of the outcomes of this focus group. And for now, we'll hear from Dean Jorgen more about how they see the importance of this project in terms of the university strategy.
Thank you. Thank you, Khalid. Thank you to all of you here in attendance today, and I think the presence of so many of our colleagues, deans, staff, and students shows the importance of this project and really the belief in the impact that it can have in shaping our community as a campus. And I think that's really at the heart of what we are hoping to see with this new next generation of living spaces for our students is how do we redefine who we are as a community? How do we exist and live together? But how do we connect back to the entire campus, really? Again, its positionality on the map, its connectivity with the existing res life. And if you look at the coming projects, really, that are coming down side of the campus, it really positions the res life community a little bit more in the center of what our campus looks like. And from there, we're really hoping that that energy builds out and connects to the rest of the activity on campus, and that, you know, the ability to be a resident, but also for non-residents to interact with these communities are a little bit more less structured. You know, we saw the notion of having guests and more open access and more outside activities kind of echoed in some of the things that the focus groups relayed. I think it's something that our students are today and in the future are looking for. You know, I want you to think about some of the isolation that this generation is coming out of with COVID. Look at the isolation often created by students that exist mostly online and looking for support and help in learning how to be a community, where the next piece of that is, again, the way in which our students, staff, and our professional staff exist within these spaces to help program and create a conducive environment for more organic experiences that are not structured and timed, but more off the cuff. And so that's kind of the vision that we hope to see through this project, and that we'd love to hear more from our community about how to make happen.
Thank you, Dean Jorgen. And for now, we're going to start a little bit our interactive presentation piece. Oh, there we go. So we'll ask you to take out your phones, and you can go to menti.com or simply, scan the QR code. And for our first point of discussion, so basically what we'll be trying to do is to solicit some input from all of you, especially our students as well, to let us really know how you envision in one word. I mean, that's a big challenge, but at least in one word. And we're going to see a little bit what words can come up, and maybe we use this as a prompt to start a conversation across our panelists, especially as well to hear from Rashad. Thank you. It's always a lot of fun to see your response coming in and making a word bolder or bigger, you know. So, oh wow, lots of people tuning in. 48. That's really amazing. So maybe I'll start with you, Rashad. Any words here that are kind of interesting or ringing
Thank you.
specific?
Yeah, it's interesting that community keeps on being there. At the beginning, it was innovation, but now community is taking over. And so it may seem that it would be interesting to have spaces where people could connect more, engage in group activities. I read a lot, but having spaces where people could exercise, for example, do music-related stuff, get to engage with each other. And that's what I think is missing, coming from the off-campus dorms. What if 5 people want to engage and do some cardio together and connect? They are not friends, but they just want to connect over an exercise. And so my thinking of community and my thinking of the new way of building is about how we envision people and how we think these people should be. And I think awareness, connecting, having a sense of community, and being an active citizen contributing to sustainable development and recycling, right? And environmental conservation. And so, yeah, these are things that I think are pretty important in my view. But community being there strikes a lot. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rashad, for that. Before I leave the space maybe for Dean Jorgen and Dr. Khaled to comment if they have any ideas, I wanted maybe to ask the audience, one of the keywords here is virtual. And I wanted to understand more what maybe is meant by the virtuality of this next generation living and learning spaces. Any takers on that? There was virtual here, right? Oh, there we go. It moved. Okay, well, any ideas maybe, Dr. Khaled, on what virtuality can mean for a project like that?
I think that we all of us at this point after COVID exist somehow in terms of partially in virtual space, right? So I'm not surprised that the keyword is there and its impact on architecture. We definitely need spaces that could actually work for us if we want to collaborate on projects, and we are by ourselves at the student housing. or over a weekend, but our friends exist in virtual space, so we need to immerse ourselves and get the work done and get the project done with facilities that actually could get the work to the point. So I'm not surprised that virtual here and popped up, or with community, but I would like to highlight also the word inclusive. Inclusive is an important term that we are, as a community, need to digest and need to take our time to understand that that doesn't just mean that we allow each other access in spaces, but also to understand each other's boundaries and limitations and freedom and right of space and right of access, unobstructed right, that could be physical access through on our plaza, on our open spaces, and it could be actually down to the room level, the selection of colors and the selection of furniture that could allow us with our different types of disabilities, for example, to be able to produce and be able to be part of a successful story.
Thanks, Dr. Khaled, for that. I think what's very impressive, is that the group of keywords, I can really see that they highlight also our hopeful vision for the institution as a whole. So I think it's interesting that we're seeing that the momentum there is around really creating spaces that conform and reflect the identity of AUC. Dean Jorgen, anything specifically interesting or that you would like to highlight maybe from the group of keywords that appear?
Well, real quick, to me, I think, you look at this combination of words and the responses, and the one word, it's the word home. It's the concept of home, and what does that conjure up in everyone when you think of home? And that says a lot about the way our students want to feel in their res halls, the liberty of feeling at home, and in whatever way they define it, and how do we create that sense of home for a very diverse community on our campus.
Thanks for that. I think this is something as well that echoes some of the comments that we heard from the students in the video, as well as the outcome of the focus group, that need to feel at home and to be able to really personalize their experience in the dorms. And I think, I don't know, for me, just looking at this, I come from the architecture department, so I just wish every project came with this group of keywords that I can just jump in on the paper and start designing. Well, thanks for this. We'll move on to our next question that will trigger more responses. But before we do that, I wanted to ask the audience if there's any questions or ideas that this group of keywords triggers for them. We have 2 microphones on the side, so if you can just... Yes, please.
I think that's a very interesting exercise, and I was wondering if you have a group of words that came up from the focus groups so that we can compare what happened on your research with us today. That's the first question. And my second question is, because it's the Next Living, Next Learning facility, so in the video and throughout the presentation and now, I can't really touch the learning part, so I'd be interested to hear more about that. Thank you.
So the learning part, I think it's an interesting one because we are an institution of higher education, and the assumption is that the learning is academic, and that is very much a component of what we hope to insert into the experience. But the learning of being a community, the learning of being independent, of transitioning from child to adult. There's a lot of different learning that in the way we create the spaces. So you heard about students talking about more cooking spaces. Well, that's the concept of learning how to manage a budget, to do your shopping, to stock your fridge, to cook for yourself. There's that aspect of it, of learning how to be mindful of your neighbors. When are you cooking? What are you cooking? When are you doing your laundry? You know, so there's that community aspect. And then the next piece of that, obviously, the more obvious part is, you know, Rashad mentioned earlier about, you know, one of the key words that came up was the concept of sustainability and how do we exist as a community and reflect those values. So again, how do we take some of the learning that's occurring on our campus around some of these issues and incorporate it into the way we live there and help students when they leave that community being active citizens on this issue as an example, but of course many others that would be introduced to at a deeper level through the experience of our residential communities.
Not to touch directly on the question, but although community is quite important, it's interesting to have a sense of individuality. So while we may have spaces where people could connect, could bond, to do a lot of things, we should also think about spaces where people could self-isolate to build, right? Because while you express yourself in society, you build yourself at times in isolation. And so if we could have, for example, especially the learning, if you have insulated learning spaces from the common areas, that could be fantastic, right? And also quite something interesting which didn't pop up, which is always on my mind, is the environment and green spaces, right? Voila. Green spaces and awareness in terms of water consumption, which is pretty much important. And so building a space where people are constantly aware of the fact that they need to be connecting with the environment, they need to be aware of their surroundings and the environmental challenges in their surrounding. Saving water are key elements that I think should be considered. Thank you.
I'll let you, Dr. Khaled, take that piece on the green and maybe
definitely the future is green, and the future green with all of its facets. We already spoken, each one of these words is touching on an element or a dimension of sustainability, which we aspire for. Not, of course, Rashad, as you spoke about water, not only water, energy as well. And we want our students, we want the community that be part of this future student housing to actually be responsive to climate change and to manage their own energy use, manage their own water use, be able to plant their own kind of maybe small little crops or something on a roof garden, be able to break barriers, be able to allow themselves an opportunity to network with their international peers. And this is, sustainability is not just an environmental issue, it's more of a social as well, in addition to an economic dimension. So a good part of this is how we function as a community socially, and how are we able to trade ideas and exchange ideas that would allow us a level of innovation that we never actually heard of before, or never actually thought of.
Thanks, Dr. Khaled, for that. I think with this, maybe we can move to our next question. So again, same trick, I think, oh wow, it's already full of responses. Okay, so for those of you who haven't had the chance to answer yet, the question is reading, how do you want the new dorm to be different from the current one? Okay. I'll just give everyone a moment here to read through some of the answers. So again, some themes that we hear or see reoccurring, more food options, more engagement, diverse, collaborative, and engaging spaces. Can we maybe scroll down a little bit? More appealing and inviting, okay. Flexible furniture. Smart dorm. More passive interactions, okay, that's interesting. Healthy engagement. More up-to-date. Connected learning experience. cozy. Wow, very, very active audience. I'm liking this very much. Well, maybe let's open up again the floor for the audience to anyone wants to elaborate more on either any of the specific keywords, how they don't apply much to the current living spaces and how they envision them more qualitatively, I guess, in the future space. Any takers? No. Any takers from our panelists?
I think we must have someone from the current dorms. Yeah, Dr. Hoda, go ahead. Please, go ahead.
So we have you as well? Okay. Up. There we go.
So the purpose is like the next generation of living learning experiences. And some of the students we've talked to as dorm residents, there is this kind of, I don't know if it's an artificial divide as if you're a dorm resident or a non-dorm resident. And how can we open up, let's say, the dorm community in a way that connects them to the campus, to other students, to events. The exclusivity, of course, because it needs to be a safe space, it needs to be, you know, a contained space, but at the same time, you sacrifice, let's say, containment with the connection to the rest of the campus. And I think it would be interesting just to explore how the dorms connect to the other activities on campus and the other students who are not necessarily dorm residents. They, you know, they want to study together, they want to learn together, they have a group project, the level of permissions they need to get into the dorms and things like that, to make it more fluid and more accessible as a learning space, but also as a living space in the future.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Hoda, for this. I think maybe Dean Jürgen, I mean, I think up till now, or at least in my head, we were thinking really about, when we're talking about the dorms, of course, the activities and also the buildings and the spaces and all that. But maybe, Dr. Hoda, you touched upon something that's more about the operation, like the process of how these new dorms could function. Do you have any maybe ideas that you could tell us, like the vision of how this could be different from the current setup?
Actually, you know, some of the conversations we had with architects, we talked about what does the first floor could look like, and how does that first floor connect into being a common, more public space versus, and where do you secure access so that there is still this ability and really the connectivity between the first floor and how it flows to the outdoor, so that it's there's less of a barrier in terms of precisely some of these types of ideas, but then really creating the access restrictions further beyond. So if you're familiar with our current dorms, they're walled in. And so first you have to go through that barrier, and then you have to then go into the dividing kind of male-female, and really the common space is very restricted. You know, we have one room area that maybe fits 50 if we stretch and remove a lot of furniture, and some public spaces, but that's not really open. And again, you know, the student walking by doesn't get the opportunity to see their friend hanging out and stop by and say hello. You know, you have to be invited in, you have to be pulled into it. So we did discuss that, and again, this is part of this exercise here, is to get at defining what that can look like and feel like. Yeah. I think we had a comment from...
So commenting on the responses and what Dean Jorgen said, my name is Fairuz. I work as a resident officer. I'm 11th staff at the Office of Residential Life. So I've been there for so long. So commenting on those responses specifically, how the current AC residences are built, they don't really promote for inclusion in different aspects in terms of accessibility or based on gender, or accessibility for certain students as well, and how the spaces are divided. There isn't actually much spaces utilized in terms of the outdoor spaces. So it's commonly the spaces for people to live, the rooms, and the common spaces are very limited to the activities that could be done or in terms of whether the studying, the fun parts, so the common spaces are very limiting to all the activities that could be done to achieve the purpose of the experience that we want to promote for. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for this. Any comments or ideas? Maybe Rashad, Dr. Khalid?
Yeah, I mean, the common spaces are pretty limited. So maybe an idea could be about exploiting the roof to create, of course, you have a common area where people could play games and watch TVs. You have the kitchens, but maybe exploiting roofs for maybe sporting activities, you know, group engagement, dancing clubs, stuff like that, which people could do together to exploit the space much more efficiently, I believe, yeah. Maybe we need to try about thinking about new things that people could do in new kind of spaces beyond watching TV, playing games, and reading books, I think. So this could promote a healthy citizen, an active citizen, and an active student, yeah.
Keeping it safe, you know, of course, you know, the roof experience, you know, in design, we kind of cautious with the roof because the roof, you know, you're forced to have systems and you have to have, you know, energy generation as well if you have renewables. And, but again, it's parapets and it's access. I know here at AUC we love our roofs, and I see many people sometimes wandering around on the roof, but within safety measures. So we'll make it safe, and absolutely, Rashad, I agree with you. We need space, more space typologies that can bring us together and that we can actually use it as opportunities to get closer to one another, or maybe make new friends, or maybe we're able to have some type of an experience that's different from what we go through in our academic buildings every day.
Thanks for this. And I think the word flexibility came up a few times, and maybe, I mean, again, as designers, it's sometimes hard to envision all the possible ways that a space could be utilized. So again, flexibility could be one idea in terms of leaving space for our dorm residents to really assign functions for specific spaces or so. With that, maybe we can move to the next question. I don't know if there's already answers waiting for us at that point. There is, wow. So the question here is more focused on dining options. And we already have 24 responses about the kind of food options or dining options that we would like to see in our new student living and learning spaces. So of course, I mean, the highest is green, accidentally, but also not a bad color to choose. So this idea of the availability of 24-hour food options or outlets, followed by healthy food options, followed by that interest in cooking or in a collective kitchen. So specifically a collective setup for cooking as opposed to individual. Well, the good thing is that not many people want fast food, so that's good. Well, cheap food options, that's also, well, somewhere there. Any ideas from the audience on how that played out in terms of a poll?
We need more cooks. Right?
Yeah?
Yes.
I'm happy to volunteer.
I think if we have a space that actually many, and I'm one of them, that have a bit of a barrier with cooking, you know, so maybe a space that can allow you to stay alive on your own by mixing few ingredients, that would be something good as well, okay? Mm-hmm. But also we need to talk about the healthy food options also, being available 24/7.
I think these are important points, and I mean, from my experience on other campuses, the availability of community or communal kitchens, even open to people beyond the dorms, creates an opportunity for learning. I mean, food is a great medium for exchange of knowledge, culture. So it could be really something interesting to look at. But maybe maybe you want to hear from the audience a little bit more on regarding dining in general. It doesn't have to be a comment exactly related. Is there other things maybe that you're interested in that didn't appear as one of the choices? Yes, thank you. Yes, go. Okay. Well, it's interesting or important that that we're hearing that. I mean, so I'm guessing that if there is more affordance in terms of options, in terms of access to facilities as well as access to resources to prepare these food, maybe their will or not wanting fast food could be more easily realized, I guess. Any comments on this, maybe from Rashad, Dean Jorgen?
I mean, I'm surprised that cheap food is pretty low.
I was too.
You see? So yeah, I mean, I have a rule: cheap, a lot, and delicious. But yeah, so I'm surprised it's low. But yeah, it has a very valid point. At times, it's about getting the ingredients. You are working, and all of a sudden you get hungry. You want to cook, but you don't have the ingredients. It means you have to get out of the dorms. I'm at building 2, so you have to walk to Otheim. You have to battle with Arabic, get whatever you need. So yeah, at times they are the ingredients. At times you also don't want to do all the work on your own if you have someone with who to connect. And this is also where the flexibility comes in. The flexibility earlier is not just in terms of the learning and the common areas or in terms of breaking down the rigidity of accessibility from the campus people to the dorms people, but also in terms of the cooking, right? And the ease at which people have available or the availability of ingredients in order to easily cook or connect to someone else in order to easily cook, yeah.
One of the ideas, is thinking about food trucks. I think it would be really nice to have different color food trucks along with different kinds of foods. You could have all different kind of international foods as well. And it could also expose our community to other parts of the world through food. I mean, food is the way to your stomach and to your heart. So I think we really could do something like that on campus, and it doesn't require you to go out and find a vendor. You can actually, even do some competitions on what kind of food can be sold on our campus through trucks, and they're not big investments either, so we might not have to get permits and things. And so anyway.
Thanks. Well, I think that conversation on food got me a little hungry. So maybe we'll move on to hear a little bit more on. Oh,
Sharif,
sorry about that.
I have a small comment. I heard an idea, and I don't know if it came from the focus groups or from somewhere, that marrying the learning spaces idea with something like cooking classes in the those collective kitchen areas could be a nice combination, whereby, you know, the students get some assisted help, and at the same time, but you need to, of course, cater for that in the design to provide those kitchens and have some cooking classes in the. I think that's a very nice idea if we can try to build on that.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, food is one of the areas where there's usually a lot of student activities and interest. It's something that they need, as we just heard, but also something fun and a medium for interchange and so on. So I think it's a great idea. So here we're asking about features that we would like to see in the new living and learning spaces that would help it be more social and help our residents make more friends. So it looks like we've heard back from about 20 people, so we'll maybe leave some time for more people to give some feedback. Any specific ones, Dean Jorgen, that catches your attention here?
Well, again, I mean, I know we have a question later on that kind of gets a little bit closer to that, but I love the reoccurrence of the gender fluidity. You know, I love that it keeps coming up again, and I think the way it's being used here is in the ability of the genders to work together, to hang out together, to live together, to have more of the residential experience together, rather than to have to seclude themselves. You know, further. So I think also we need to be clear about how it's being used here as well.
Yeah. Rashad, go for it.
I really love the middle one, more spaces to work, study, exercise, and get creative. Quite interesting, yeah. And common spaces where residents can interact and accessibility. Sorry, I'm very greedy, so I mean.
There's always more, right?
I actually want to comment on the word comfortable, Sharif, if you, the previous, up above.
A little bit up?
Yeah, the idea of comfort is actually, yes, it's a tough, actually, it might seem easy, but it's not. For designers, when you design a home that you design to others, there are no guarantees on this. You do your best to actually, with the level of expertise and your collective wisdom, but you really want to talk with people during design. So your participation is important, because we're not talking here about thermal comfort or maybe acoustics, but having a comfortable space and the idea of how you perceive space is extremely important, and you cannot arrive to that without communication and without feedback and without being active in terms of participating in a design process to voice out what actually gets you to have a good space and to be a comfortable space. Many of us, right, Sharif, you're in research, avoid that buzzword when you try to quantify, for example, comfort.
Or we try to over-define it. But, but I agree with you. I think the definition of comfort here should be really expanded to include, I mean, I think at the end of the day, what we're hoping for is really a comfortable home where our residents can live, but also learn, right? So comfort here is not exactly, as you said, it's not just the environmental comfort, how cold or hot the AC is, or the lighting condition. This is certainly part of it, but it's also it's social, human, and beyond. And I want to go back to the point that Rashad highlighted here with this work, study, exercise, and get creative, as a response to this notion of helping dorm residents make friends. So the idea that even in these, by providing these spaces, it can actually become more social, spaces that allow these multitudes of activities to take place. Maybe we can move on for the next question. I mean, there's always answers waiting, so I'm just now kind of anticipating. There we go. So our next question here is really how you, as our audience, especially our students, of course our faculty, deans, and administrators would like to continue to engage in this conversation. And maybe with that, I wanted to open up the floor for specifically our students as well, if they have ideas or preferences on how they want to do that. And of course, Rashad, you're free to jump in if you have an idea that pops in your mind in response to those.
Yeah, of course, I love focus group discussions. They allow for accessibility to massive amounts of data in a short period of time, and people could build on each other's ideas. So yeah, focus group discussions, definitely. But I want to go back to the idea of comfort. In building 2, for example, I connect with a lot of people. But after monitoring some time, I realized that there's an area which is accessible to everyone, but no one goes there. And so I started going there in the evening just to listen to music and not see someone. And so although you need to connect, to engage, to be active, you want to also build social energy, or you want to zoom out. And you don't want to see someone. And so it has a certain meaning of comfort. And after that, I go back and I'm smiling, and everyone asks, what's wrong? I'm like, I'm okay. So yeah, it's also rings the bell on the other side of comfort and what it may mean for different kind of people. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Rashad.
I'll just add actually to that comment again. I go back to our conversations with the architect where we talked about kind of the flow of the building, and that first floor where the more exposed part is the more social community, but as you move further back into the floors, you get those spaces for isolation, for calmness, for wellness, introspection. So again, it's good to hear you echo that, again, not every person is one-dimensional, and their needs are one-dimensional. There are times and places in the semester, in the ebb and flow of the rhythm, where they need different things, and these spaces have to account for that need. Yeah.
Thanks for adding these comments. I think that brings a lot of definition to the word comfort and how it can be maybe achieved in some of the spaces in the new building. I mean, I was hoping campus conversations would be like the winner because we're doing such a great job today. But well, engagement in design charrettes, I guess that maybe falls back to Dr. Khaled a little bit on maybe thinking of ways that students can interact with less proxies maybe in the design process.
Yeah, I was just chatting with Dean Jorgen on this maybe last week, and then we were talking about maybe scheduling maybe a night with the architects or so up in the dorms, or maybe 1 or 2 more events where we meet on a much smaller groups. But folks, you have to understand that you can't really have focus groups and input on design forever, because you have at one point to decide. So, looking at the timeline, that's why I started to show you the timeline. We do have that window, but we really need your help to be active a bit quicker with your voices and through our events to allow us time to calibrate all of today's, Sharif, we're saving all of this input.
Yes,
we're gonna digest this. None of this will go to waste, and we're gonna actually translate that. This is our job into maybe feedback into the program to help with and feed that back to the architects, which are currently actually engaged into design. So with more events on this, actually it will be actually better suited to collect more feedback.
Thanks, Dr. Khaled. I think we have one more that we're just going to leave here on the board, while we leave maybe space for 1 or 2 comments from the audience. We have a hard close at 2, so yes, please.
I won't have the pleasure of living in these spaces, but can I ask, how many units are you designing in the new facilities? How many units are in the current facilities? And are you creating a 2-tier campus with these wonderful new facilities? How will you compensate in the existing facilities? Because inevitably the students will be comparing between the two.
Well, we have about, I hope, Yasser, I hope I'm right, 682 beds, right? And then we're adding 300 more. Yeah? Okay, so altogether like about 800, and we're adding 300. And we hope that we have beds for everyone down the road in the future, so that everyone gets part of being part of college and college experience. Now with the issue that it always happens whenever you have a newer building that carries the same function as the old one, especially when it comes to residences. And we can be creative with this, but definitely there will be it's expected that buildings that go into past their 10-year of life, that they will go in a cycle of some upgrades to level up to what the current buildings are. We will learn a lot from this process, and we learned a lot from what we have right now. So definitely we will be looking into opportunities of bringing up some of our spaces, the existing spaces, to be equal or maybe better than, or maybe at the same level like what the new spaces are. So I expect that actually to happen, but maybe when we're done with the new dorms first. And then maybe that will keep Shireen busy, you know, afterwards. You know?
Great.
Other comments, maybe Dean Jorgen?
Again, something that we discussed, you know, with the architects, exactly what you said, is the second the new buildings are being occupied, we're creating this two-tier system. And my first question was, okay, in the potential design, new housing is kind of open and connected to the campus. I'm like, we're going to have to talk about the wall at the existing housing and what we're doing about that already. I'm going to echo a lot of what Khaled said. We will have to think about how to redesign those spaces. I think we can delay the perception of inequality by tailoring some of our housing to match with certain initiatives and programs. Okay, so in terms of living, learning communities and those types of things. Again, it starts off with the number of students in the entering class and how we need to accommodate and prioritize, but there is an opportunity to do some intentional design about who gets to live where based on what kind of living, learning community they're engaged in, whether it's community based on campus or academically connected in some way, shape, or form. Yeah.
Thanks for that. I think we're at close, unfortunately. We remain, however, very keen to receive any questions or comments from any of our attendees, and I think it's being streamed online, is it? Recorded. So for those who will see the recording, if they have any questions or comments as well, to share it with us, with Dr. Khaled.
On the portal.
On the portal.
Campus 2026. There is, where's Ghada? She will, yes, the email is there, and we are going to try to even get it to be more interactive by allowing questions and to be posted soon.
Fantastic.
And maybe respond to them.
Wow.
And post on the portal. So please visit the Campus 2026 portal, and from there you will see an email and just send your feedback, and more events and sessions of similar to that will be posted on it soon in the future.
With that, I thank you all for making it for that hour. We hope, we're sorry if you took a few more minutes than intended. I thank Dr. Khaled very much, Dean Jorgen, Rashad for your time, and thanks for your attention.